The first event of anti-Semitism was based on jealousy and disappointment. It starts there and continues all the way to the 20th century with Hitler and the Nazis. But Jesus is the King of the Jews. On the cross it was written in Latin, Ineri, Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews. How can you go worship Jesus, the King of the Jews, and hate the Jews? And so the future of every Christian, Catholic, Greek, Orthodox, Protestant, Pentecostal, whoever, is connected with Israel, with the nation, with the people, and with the land of Israel.
하나님을 모르는 사람들, 성경을 모르는 사람들이 이렇게 반유대주의 하는 거는 그렇다 치더라도 한국교회 같은 경우는 그 교회에서도 또는 예수님을 믿는 사람들 중에서도 이거는 좀 아니지 않느냐 하는 그렇게 이스라엘에 대해서 네거티브한 생각을 갖는 반이스라엘, 반유대주의 이런 생각을 갖는 사람도 교회 안에도 있거든요. 교회에서 반유대주의, 반이스라엘 이런 마음을 거두게 하려면 어떻게 해야 됩니까?
Well, anti-Semitism was not born in the church. It was not, the source of anti-Semitism is not the church, not the biblical church. What happened with the church is that the church was kidnapped to Rome in the end of the 2nd century, beginning of the 3rd century. And if you read the Roman church fathers like Augustinus and others, they moved the center of the church from Jerusalem in the land of Israel to Rome. And that's the source of anti-Semitism. The source of anti-Semitism is the Roman church, not the evangelical churches, not the Protestant church. They inherited the anti-Semitism from Rome, because the main DNA of the Protestant churches today is still Rome. How do I know that? I know it because of their own association. The holidays that they serve are Roman holidays. They're not the biblical holidays that the Apostle Paul and Peter and James and they celebrated the biblical holidays. And the church is commanded to celebrate the Passover. The Gentiles are commanded in 1 Corinthians 5. Let us therefore celebrate the Passover because Christ is our Passover lamb. Yeah? So the DNA of the Christian world today is from Rome. And Rome inherited that hatred of the Jews as a result of the fact that the church fathers, for political reasons, not for spiritual reasons, moved the center of the church from the land of Israel to Rome. And the Protestants are all born in Rome. Luther was a Roman priest. Calvin was a Roman Catholic priest. Meno, Hus, Zwingli, they were all Roman Catholic priests. So they brought with them that anti-Jewish attitude with the excuse that the Jews killed Jesus. But, first of all, the Jews did not kill Jesus. Second of all, the death of Jesus, the only one to blame for the death of Jesus is God Himself, God the Father. How do I know that? Because you have Isaiah 53, you've got Zechariah's prophecies, you've got 800 years before Jesus was born, God already made the plan that by His stripes we are healed. By His stripes our sins are forgiven. Isaiah lived 800 years before Jesus was born. Yeah, and Isaiah is not the only one. We've got Zechariah, we've got Micah, we've got lots of prophecies that talk about the Messiah suffering for humanity, for me and you, even for the Japanese, even for the Germans, even for the Arabs. Yeah? And so this excuse that the Jews killed Jesus is, first of all, not true. And second of all, it's totally ignorant of God's promises to the world, hundreds of years before the birth of Jesus. So the idea of anti-Semitism, that the Jews are the Christ killers, it's completely false, based on false ideas, based on lies. Yeah? And you know, the reason that we started to fight, that we dedicated to fight anti-Semitism internationally now, is very simple. If you hear the Jews talking about anti-Semitism, you know what it is? Oy, what a terrible thing is for the Gentiles to hate us. The Jews complain to the Jews about anti-Semitism. No Jew goes inside the churches and talks about anti-Semitism. I don't know of a single Jew that goes to the church and tells the church, you are wrong. You should love the Jews. They are the future, and Rome is the past. Yeah? Jesus is coming back to the land of Israel. He's not coming back. He never visited Rome as far as I know. He's coming back to Jerusalem, to the Mount of Olives, from where he descended. Where he ascended, that's where he's going to descend. So yes, it's a very important thing, and we believe that it is the Messianic, the job of the Messianic Jews to be the bridge between the traditional European-based church from Rome, or from Germany, or from Switzerland, back to the land of Israel and to the people of Israel, because that's where Jesus is coming back. And I don't know when he's coming back, but I know he's coming back for sure. And there will be a new heavens and a new earth. That's from Isaiah. And there will be a new Jerusalem. That's also from Isaiah and from Zechariah. And the nations will have to come, in Zechariah 14, to Israel every Feast of Tabernacles if they want to have rain in Korea. The Koreans will have to come and worship God of Israel in Jerusalem.
물론 이제 장로님이나 뭐 저는 당연히 이스라엘 편에 서고 프로 이스라엘인데, 한국의 많은 교회들이 요즘은 많이 그래도 이스라엘 편을 드는데 아직까지도 이렇게 이스라엘 편에 서지 않는 그런 교회들이 있어요. 그렇게 이스라엘 편에 서는 교회와 이스라엘 편에 서지 않는 교회, 이 두 종류로 이렇게 갈려지는 것이 마지막 때에 어떤 선과 악으로 나뉘어지는 것, 그리고 양과 염소로 나뉘어지는 것, 이렇게 연결지어도 되는 겁니까?
I think that it's the question is too big, because there are lambs and goats. There are going to be people that go to hell and people that are going to heaven. That's a biblical given. It's a biblical fact. But who is going to go to heaven and who is not? I would be a false prophet if I even attempted to answer this question, because I don't know. I don't know who is a goat and who is a sheep. And I don't know, what it takes for a goat to become a sheep. Yeah. But I know this, knowing the history of the church, in ancient time and in modern time as well, that churches are changing. Churches are changing. I remember the first time I went to Korea, to the Onuri Church, when Pastor Ha was alive. He visited our congregation first. He came to our congregation with a group of pastors and elders and invited me to come to Korea. And I know that they had a supernatural interest and love for Jewish people in Onuri. Pastor Ha, personally, not everybody, not all the pastors, Pastor Ha had that kind of supernatural revelation to love the Jewish people and to love Israel. People change. I met people, professors of theology in the best seminaries in Korea, One of them was an anti-Semite, graduated from a very famous American university, got his PhD from America, and he was an anti-Semite. But I publicly argued with him and publicly showed him that it was wrong, that he's wrong. Later on, one of the professors who graduated from the Hebrew University here, there were two professors at that seminary that got their PhD in Jerusalem, wrote me that he talked to that professor that got his PhD from Stanford in America, and that he changed his mind. He read some of my commentaries on the book of Acts, and he changed his mind. So people can change. Who is a goat today, tomorrow he may be a sheep. Yeah, and somebody who's a sheep today, tomorrow he could become a goat. You know, we don't know these things. But I do know this, that if you hate Jews, there will be a lot of Jews in heaven.
그런데 한국에는 그 교인도 막 몇천 명 되고 몇만 명 되는 큰 교회도 있어요. 물론 이제 하나님이 축복해 주셔서 그렇게 교회가 크게 성장을 했을 거고, 그렇게 많은 교인들이 함께 모여서 뜨겁게 기도하고 또 헌금도 많이 해서 선교도 많이 하고, 그러나 그런 교회도 이스라엘 편에 서지 않고 프로 이스라엘이 되지 않고, 장로님께서 말씀하셨던 것처럼 이렇게 안티세미티즘으로 됐을 때 그런 교회도 하나님께서 축복하실까요?
If I was God, I could answer your question. But I'm not God. But, you know, there's a strange question. Because we've got people that were blessed that were not pro-Israel. We've got people that their land was blessed, their people were blessed, and they were not pro-Israel. Joseph was in jail 20 years in Egypt. Then he became assistant to Pharaoh, second to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh was not exactly a pro-Jewish king. Especially that Pharaoh, if we are right on the chronology, then that Pharaoh was definitely not pro-Jewish. But he was blessed and his land was blessed because they heard the divine wisdom that God gave Joseph. And today, that is a very strange phenomenon because there are a lot of anti-Semites, very famous ones, very rich ones in America. I mean, I don't know that many people in Korea, only people from church. But in America, I know that some of the most rich people in America are anti-Semites, but they are changing. You know why they're changing? Because they need the Jews. Because the biggest banks in America, JP Morgan and others, are all Jewish. And they need the Jews. And the Jews made a lot of money for them. And so they suddenly wake up and decide, you know what, why am I hating these people? They don't know why. They got it from their mother's milk. They inherited that hatred. But when they start thinking logically, so we're reading, we believe in a Jew to be the Son of God. We believe in a Jew that will judge the world. We believe in a Bible that was written by Jews about Israel, mostly 90% about Israel are Jews. So how could we hate the Jews and believe the Bible? But it takes two things. One is God's finger to touch their lives, yeah, and their heads and their hearts. And it takes people like Nativia to target and publish and teach the Word of God. You know, how many pastors know that anti-Semitism started in the book of Genesis with Ishmael trying to sexually molest Isaac? And he did succeed, because Isaac did not get married. And his father had to send to Assyria his servant Eliezer to bring him a bride. He was 40 years old when he married an 18-year-old girl from a cousin of his. Yeah, it's not normal for a man in those days to be 40 years old not to be married. Yeah, and of course, the fact was that Rebecca ruled his life till the last day of his life. Yeah, because he was not that interested in, and she only got pregnant once. Yeah, Abraham, he was already 90 years old. He had 6 more sons from Torah. You know, Abraham was okay. Isaac was not. He had only one pregnancy, but lucky they were twins. You know, otherwise he wouldn't have had other children at all. So most pastors don't know these things, and we have to teach them. We have to show them how wrong it is to hate the Jews, to hate anybody. You know, if a person hates blacks in America now, everybody is against him. Yeah, it's a big sin to hate blacks. Yeah, but it's almost normative nowadays, even in university and college campuses, to hate Israel and to hate Jews and to persecute the Jews. Every hour in the United States, Jews are getting beat up, persecuted, spit upon.
지금 전 세계에서 일고 있는 그 반유대주의 열풍, 특히 미국과 유럽, 여기서 일어나고 있는 이 반유대주의 이 분위기 때문에 그 지역에 살고 있는 유대인들이 이스라엘로 돌아오고 알리야 하는데 어떤 결정적인 역할을 하는 것은 맞죠?
Now, one thing about Aliyah and the Christians in Korea is this. There's a lot of people raising money for Aliyah. One pastor gave $10 million to a crook in Israel, a Messianic Jewish crook, that not $1 will go to Aliyah. Another woman, Chinese woman, gave $500,000 to another crook, Messianic Jew, that promised that he will build a prayer house on the shore of the Sea of Galilee, and she gave him $500,000. 3 years later, she came to visit. Where is the house that you built? He said, well, I didn't build it. I couldn't get a license. He bought himself a house. So don't give money for Aliyah to anybody except official Israeli government agencies, like the Jewish agency. Not to believers. Don't give money for Aliyah to believers. They can't do anything with it. They don't know what to do about it. They're all immigrants from America, and they have no connections here with the government. Yeah? For Aliyah has to go to the Jewish agency, to the government agency for Aliyah, not to believers. Because who are they? How are they going to bring Aliyah? What are they going to do for the Aliyah? They don't do nothing. They can't give visas, they can't give permits, they can't make housing, they can't do anything. It's increasing, daily it's increasing, because Jews understand that it's not safe for them to live in Europe. Europe is worse than America. Anti-Semitism is much stronger in Europe than it is in America. Jews from France and Belgium are making Aliyah and have made Aliyah in the last few months by the thousands. Jews are realizing that it's not safe for them to live in Europe. Why? Because Europe swallowed the poison out of greed. For 5 cents, they brought workers from Africa, Muslims. For 5 cents less, they brought from Iraq and from Syria and from Lebanon during the ISIS crisis there. Finland, that had the first time I went to Finland in 1981, there were no Arabs there, no Muslims, maybe 10, 15 families, that was all in 1981. Now it's full because it's a quiet country, it's a beautiful country, good people, good conditions, full of Muslims. And one of our sisters in Finland was a witness to this in a restaurant, in a coffee shop that was in a gas station. There's a restaurant and they were sitting and eating, and there was a child with roller skates, and he was skating around the tables and pushing people and making noise. And so this sister told him, "Listen, boy, go to your father. This is not a place for skating." So the father got up and said, "You have no right to talk to my son. Today we are a Muslim minority in this land, but in a few years we will be the majority and we will have to educate you." An Arab immigrant telling that to a Finnish woman that's born and raised there, publicly. And the number of Muslims in Finland is a smaller percentage than in Germany and in Italy and in France and in Belgium and in Spain and in Portugal. Islam is taking over Europe. It's increasing, daily it's increasing, because Jews understand that it's not safe for them to live in Europe. They're getting persecuted. They walk in the streets in Paris, somebody spits on them, some Arab, some Muslim, spits on them. They don't want that. They have a land of the Jews here in the land of Israel, and they can live Jewish freely. We're not taking into account the war with the Palestinians in Gaza or in the West Bank or with the Hezbollah in the north. We have problems here too. But as a Jew, this is your home. Yes, there is aliyah, a lot of young people, not old people. The rich old Americans don't come, but their children come. A lot.
장로님, 그러면 우리가 반유대주의가 사라지게 하려면은 어떤 식으로 기도를 하는 게 좋을까요?
First of all, pray for the Jews to find peace wherever they are. And those that understand the situation, let their children come to Israel and make aliyah and build a new life. That's what you should pray. As far as anti-Semitism, prayer is not enough. I think that prayer is very important, and you should definitely pray against the spirit of the devil that is using anti-Semitism to harm the church. Because if a church cuts its roots from the land of Israel and from the people of Israel and from the history of Israel, it will be a church without roots. And a church without roots, every wind will sweep it away. And I could tell you cases like this in history in which it happened. Some of the most anti-Semitic churches in America are churches that started to celebrate the Shabbat, like the Seventh-day Adventist and others. They're the most anti-Semitic. Why? Because they cut themselves off from Israel and from the Jewish community and from the Jews, and they believe in replacement theology and supersessionism, and that they are now the only denomination that is right with God. The Baptists, the Pentecostals, the Charismatics, the Presbyterians, the Methodists, they're all wrong. only they are right. And so that's what happens when you don't have roots. And the roots of the church, of the early church, are in the Jewish people and in the land of Israel.
장로님 오늘 이렇게 피곤하실 텐데 긴 시간 저하고 이렇게 인터뷰에 응해 주셔서 너무 감사하고요. 예전에 저희 브래드TV를 통해서 이 하프타라도 강의해 주시고 또 선지서에 대해서 강의도 해 주셨는데 장로님 강의 기다리고 있는 분들이 많이 있거든요. 꼭 다시 강의 좀 들었으면 좋겠고요. 그러기 위해서 장로님 건강하셔야 됩니다. 오늘 이렇게 인터뷰에 응해 주셔서 감사합니다. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.